Nintendo has been a staple of gaming since it was founded. With iconic IPs such as Zelda, Metroid, Star Fox, and of course Mario, Nintendo has been a juggernaut in gaming. They've even published two of the top 3 highest selling game franchises of all time in Mario and Pokemon. While Xbox and PlayStation are duking it out for console supremacy, Nintendo has always seemed to be putting out bangers that just pushes gaming forward. But what if I told you that this wasn't always the case, and before Nintendo rose to fame, gaming was in a much more different scenario? What's going on with all you beautiful people, extraterrestrials, and whatever you want to identify yourself as? It's your boy Rob. Yes, just Rob, your favorite analytical gamer, back at it with another vid. Today we're going to be going over how Nintendo saved gaming from the ashes and how it became a powerhouse in the industry. If you enjoy video essays such as the vid you're watching now, then you're in the right place. Now that everything's out the way, strap yourself in, hands and feet aside the rod at all times, and somebody cue my intro.
Millions of people are addicted to hours of gazing at electronic images on game screens in arcades and in their own homes. What makes video games so popular? Well, we search for an answer as we begin a special series on Video Fever, games people play.
Before Nintendo revolutionized the gaming industry with the release of consoles, gaming existed in a very different form. The early 70s and 80s were dominated by the arcade scene, which offered coin-operated machines at public venues. Games such as Pinball, Space Invaders, and the world-renowned Pong were all popular games around this time. As you can tell, these games were simple, often involving mechanics such as shooting, racing, or sports-related titles. Around this time, we were also introduced to the first iteration of the home console with the Magnavox Odyssey, which offered very primitive graphics and overlays for the TV screen. I've never even heard of this console until I did research for this vid, so anybody who was around for that time, tell me how it was in the comments. We also got the Atari 2600, which was a much more successful console. It featured more complex games at the time such as Pac-Man and Pitfall. Its cartridge system will soon set the standard for future consoles. The game industry was booming by the early 80s, but oversaturation of poorly made games led to a major crash in '83. Games before Nintendo had a simpler design. The limitations of the hardware meant that the games could only have a few actions, basic sound, and limited visuals. The goal for most games was to beat a high score rather than to complete a narrative, which became common in later years. Overall, consumer confidence in video games plummeted and many companies went out of business. And just like Goku from Dragon Ball, when the industry needed help, they called on a certain studio from the land of the rising sun.
It may be the most addictive toy in history, and it's definitely the hottest thing this Christmas. Nintendo video games. They first arrived from Japan 3 years ago, and now millions of American kids are hooked and mesmerized. When they do stop to talk, it's in a language only they understand. Well, John Stossel went out to discover the secret of Nintendo's success, but first he had to find one.
Nintendo entered the gaming market in 1974, and its first steps were to acquire the rights to distribute the Magnavox Odyssey in Japan. In the early 80s, Nintendo video game division was led by Yokai, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, to create some of the most famous arcade games. Around this time, we got the massively popular Donkey Kong and Mario Bros. Nintendo will soon begin to shift their focus on the home game market and start releasing arcade games in Japan in the late 85. Nintendo's entries with the NES in 1985 helped revive the industry post-crash and introduce more complex story-driven games, paving the way for modern gaming. The NES 8-bit graphics and sound were advanced for the time, allowing for rich visual and audio experiences in the games. Its control design with a simple D-pad action button will set the model for future gaming controllers. Well, besides the N64 controller. That shit looked like it was designed by aliens for aliens. The NES also featured many iconic game franchises such as The Legend of Zelda, Metroid, and Kirby's Adventure. These games had engaging mechanics, compelling stories, and innovative designs which paved the way for not just what gaming consoles could offer, but ultimately how games would be developed. Nintendo didn't really rise into fame until they decided to create a unique plumber. The Super Mario franchise is quite literally the most iconic franchise in all of gaming. The first game releasing back in 1985 introduced the idea of side-scrolling platformers where the world would move with the character, and creating a sense of immersion and exploration which was groundbreaking at the time. Nintendo was, and still to this day, a centerpiece for level design in gaming. Each level felt meticulously designed in a way that balanced difficulty with fun. This was before the days of hand-holding and tutorials, but instead players had to focus on memorizing levels and having attention to detail on positioning. There was also little to no checkpoints for each level, which meant dying led to you having to start to the beginning of that said level. You also had the usual power-ups in the form of items, including the Super Mushroom, Fire Flower, and of course the Star. While we're used to seeing this now in platforming games, you have to keep in mind that this was a game changer in the 80s, and it allowed players to strategize and experiment with different abilities in order to complete the levels. Super Mario games were designed with replayability in mind, as in the form of finding secret power-ups, exploring secret areas, or just simply aiming for that perfect run. Nintendo will follow this up by releasing 2 more consoles that will push gaming forward, including one of my favorites in their lineup.
Nintendo's newest release is causing a commotion, and children aren't the only ones getting into it.
Go back over the bridge. Go over the, no, go back. Go back over the bridge. You gotta go over the bridge. The bridge.
Most stores started selling the system today, and they've already sold out. Toys R Us had the largest shipment available to the public, and before noon, they were sold out.
This is going to be the system for the year, and it's obviously going to be one of those high-demand things. It's going to be extremely difficult to get a hold of.
Nintendo will go on to continue making consoles such as the Game Boy and Super NES, but we wouldn't really get another big boom from them until the release of the N64. Released in '96, the console helped popularize the 3DS. The console helped popularize 3D gaming with its revolutionary analog stick, making movement in the 3D space feel smooth and intuitive. Let's get the elephant around the room now and discuss the controller. It was definitely unique to say the least, with its trident shape and the introduction to the analog stick. While this was crucial for precise control in 3D games, I have no idea why Nintendo thought it would be a bright idea to only include one, especially putting it in the center of the controller. But hey, Nintendo's always been on to do a couple dumb things here and there. More on that later. The N64 was also the first console to have 4 controller ports built in, making local multiplayer experiences a core part of its appeal. With games such as Mario Kart and the highly overrated GoldenEye, arguing with your mom but don't argue with me. The N64 paved the way for party and competitive gaming. Around this time, we also got 2 of the most iconic games of all time with Mario 64 and The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Both games were some of the first of its generation of fully immersed players in the 3D world, and it also offered an expansive and cohesive open world which was unprecedented at its time. Ocarina of Time balanced a linear storyline with enough freedom to allow players to explore Hyrule at their own pace. With the sense of adventure and the freedom to pursue side quests and interact with many different characters made the world feel alive and engaging. The same could be said for Mario 64, including its non-linear levels. There's a whole speedrun community where players are still finding new ways to complete the game, which shows how ahead of the game Nintendo was with the iteration of Mario at this time. The game's levels were imaginative and varied, from the open fields of Bomb Battlefield to the watery depths of Jolly Roger Bay. Each world had its own theme and secrets to discover which encouraged players to explore the world. This is also the first time we've seen Nintendo just open the floodgates with the Mario name and include games such as Mario Party, Mario Kart, and even Mario Golf. The N64 became Nintendo's best-selling console at this time, but they still had a couple tricks left up their sleeves.
The Nintendo Wii goes on sale at midnight, just days after the PlayStation 3 hit store shelves. Como 4's Joe Furia is live in Redmond, where people started lining up hours ago. Joe?
And Denise, that line here at Game Crazy in Redmond is starting to get pretty long. In just a few hours, the line went from a handful of people to well over 100.
Released in 2006, the Wii was a wildly successful console, selling over 100 million units as of August. Around this time, Nintendo's president of the North American scene grew tremendously, and that was through the effort of the former president of Nintendo North America, Reggie Fils-Aimé. When Reggie introduced himself to the gaming world in E3 of 2003, he let everyone know exactly how he felt.
My name is Reggie, I'm about kicking ass, I'm about taking names, and we're about making games.
Reggie's and Nintendo's goal for the launch of the Wii was simple. They wanted the Wii to target a wider demographic, including families, older adults, and people who haven't played video games before. This was all possible due to Nintendo's groundbreaking Wii's motion sensing controllers, which included the Wii Remote and the nunchuck. Players were now able to mimic real-life movements such as swinging the tennis racket or bowling. With titles such as Wii Sports and Just Dance, anyone could simply hop in and have a great time, since there wasn't any buttons to memorize other than the facing buttons on the nunchuck and Wii Remote. The Wii is my personal favorite console from Nintendo's lineup, mainly for nostalgic reasons. I bought the console for Christmas was one of my favorite childhood moments, until I hopped on Wii Sports for the first time and got my ass whooped by Matt.
Double fuck. Oh no. Alfonso! We just didn't need to fucking choke the punch there!
Wii Sports alone was a massive console seller for the Wii. The ability to play bowling, tennis, boxing, and much more, all with motion controls, was something completely out of a dream. It's crazy to me that even in 2024, we barely have anything good for VR, but Nintendo was doing motion sensing gaming in 2006. Don't be surprised if Nintendo ends up being the one to change VR gaming. Let me know how you feel in the comments. And of course, Nintendo had to release a Super Mario game with the release of a new console. This time we got the Mario Galaxy series, which was one of the best platformers of all time. Super Mario Galaxy introduced unique gravity-based platforming that allowed players to traverse small planetoid levels, walking upside down or being pulled to a different gravitational fields. This added an element of creativity and challenge that felt fresh compared to other platformers. The ability to explore oddly shaped worlds was groundbreaking and pushed the potential for what platformers could be. This was also one of their best looking games at the time, using bright, vibrant colors and a unique art style that gave it a whimsical, otherworldly charm. The design of the planets, characters, and environments was full of imagination, and it used the Wii's hardware to its full potential. The second game took the foundation of the first and polished it even further. It introduced Yoshi as a playable character, added more creative level designs, and even made the game a bit more challenging with what I felt like to have tighter levels where timing your jumps damn near perfect was a requirement. We also started getting a better quality of third-party games such as Rayman Origins, the Red Steel series, and the criminally underrated Mad World game. Seriously, if you haven't played the Mad World game on the Wii, you definitely missed out. As I was looking up gameplay for this vid, I didn't even realize Platinum Games developed it, which makes a lot of sense given their track record. If you wanted to burn some calories, then the Wii had your back as well. Games like Wii Fit turned the Wii into a fitness tool, promoting physical activity through fun exercises. This expanded the Wii's appeal beyond traditional gaming and helped become a part of many household fitness routines. We also saw both Xbox and PlayStation try their own hand in motion gaming at this time, with Xbox releasing the Kinect and PlayStation with the PlayStation Move. The Kinect was alright for the time, but the lack of games for the hardware kinda made it obsolete. Sony, as always, never really supported their hardware, and they just left the PlayStation Move to die on arrival. Plus, what's up with these controllers? This just further proves my point that while Nintendo never really engages in the console war, they always seem to be making innovative designs that keep gaming fresh. In short, the Wii succeeded because it innovated with motion controls, appealed to a broad audience, provided a strong game library, and was accessible both in terms of price and ease of use. It created a new way to experience games, prioritizing fun and inclusivity over sheer technical power.
I'm Jose Otero and this is IGN News. Some users of Nintendo's Wii U console have been reporting a memory error that makes it impossible for them to play games. The issue causes an error message code labeled 160-0103 to appear on screen that reads, "There's a problem with the system memory. For help, make a note of the error code and visit support.nintendo.com."
The successor to the Wii U, was released in 2012. If the Wii was the opus magnum for Nintendo at this point, then the Wii U had to be their red-headed stepchild. For starters, the name led to a lot of confusion. Many consumers thought it was just an accessory or upgrade of the original Wii, rather than a completely new console. The marketing failed completely to clearly communicate what made the Wii U different from the Wii. Marketing has always seemed to be an issue for Nintendo, as they are a Japanese company, and as you all know, Japan really doesn't care about making products that cater to a Western audience, They appreciate our dollar, but they don't need it, if you catch my drift. The U also lacked a strong launch lineup of exclusives which are critical to a console's early success. We got Super Mario U, but that was pretty much the only exclusive worth mentioning. Hell, they released NBA 2K13 and even Mass Effect 3, but what's the point of playing them with the graphics looking like hot dog water? This leads to another point, which was the hardware being lackluster. Compared to the PS4 and Xbox One, the U was significantly underpowered. It had a tri-core IBM PowerPC CPU, which was a dinosaur chip at the time. Although it was efficient, it wasn't designed for the high-performance, multi-threaded tasks that newer games demanded at that time. You also had limited RAM and a GPU that can barely handle running games at 1080p, which was becoming a standard around this time. This led to a lackluster third-party support, and the third-party games we did get, they were poorly optimized. The U also featured what they called a gamepad, which was a large controller with a built-in touchscreen. Just like the usual with Nintendo, some of their products feel to be a bit gimmicky, and this was definitely one of them. Some developers found it difficult to design around the dual screen concept, and consumers didn't even understand the purpose of it at all. The Wii U would go on to underperform, ultimately selling around 13.5 million units, making it one of Nintendo's least successful consoles. With Nintendo being the laughingstock of the gaming community and having their backs against the wall, they needed something to shake up gaming once again as a successor to the Wii U.
Here it is, the Nintendo Switch. It's the company's first new console in almost 4.5 years, and it's a hybrid console, which means this thing right here is pretty much the entire thing. It can be docked so you can use it with your television, or you can take it with you wherever you go.
Released in March of 2017, the Switch became an instant smash hit for Nintendo, combining innovative hardware design with a strong lineup of games and unique features that appeal to a wide audience. The ability to function as both a home console and a portable gaming device was groundbreaking. Now I can admit, I was a bit skeptical of how long this would last, with essentially the docking station being a plastic piece of hardware, but as long as you weren't just jamming the Switch in like a madman, it actually held up pretty well. The Switch portability was one of its standout features. Players could easily transition from playing at home to playing on the go, making it ideal for commuting, travel, and local multiplayer sessions anywhere. You also had the detachable Joy-Con controllers, which allowed for a versatile gameplay. Imagine having your standard Switch controller, but then you decide to detach it, now making it two separate pieces. Then you decide you want to give one of the Joy-Cons to the homie or a significant other, and boom, now you got co-op play going. And surprisingly, Nintendo made this a pretty straightforward process. All you gotta do is detach the Joy-Cons, was to slide them up, and it was just that easy. This was also a bounce back year for Nintendo when it comes to the exclusive games. Nintendo brought out iconic first-party titles like The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey, Animal Crossing, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Nintendo was in their Louis bag with both Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey. They were both nominated for Game of the Year in the 2017 Game Awards, with Zelda ultimately winning over titles such as Horizon Zero Dawn and Persona 5. Zelda launched as the sole exclusive for the Switch, and honestly, Breath of the Wild alone sold the Switch. Being able to explore Hyrule on the go and immerse yourself in the vast open world was amazing. Nintendo had portable consoles before, but didn't compare nowhere close to this in graphics. You also had an all-new dynamic weather and time system, which could impact how you would play the game. Rain makes climbing difficult, lightning can strike metal weapons, and certain quests or enemies only appear at specific times. The puzzle and level design was a nice touch as well. I usually hate puzzles in games, so if it's something worth pointing out for myself, then you know the puzzles were pretty solid. Mario Odyssey is probably the most fluid Mario game we got since Mario Sunshine, offering players a wide range of acrobatic abilities like triple jumps, wall jumps, long jumps, and rolling. However, the key standout for this would be Cappy. Cappy allowed players to capture enemies, objects, and even NPCs, giving them access to their abilities. This mechanic opened up a wide range of gameplay possibilities and makes exploration and puzzle solving fresh and exciting. I'll never forget the first time throwing my hat at Bullet Bill and just going ham on the NPCs. He even got to turn into Bowser at the end game, which was so cool. The combination of hardware innovation, a rich game library, portability, and appeal to all kinds of gamers made the Nintendo Switch a major success. Without the Switch, we wouldn't even have things like the Steam Deck, which is a beast in itself. That was a lot for us to go over. I know some people who owns PlayStation, Xbox, and even PCs will see Nintendo kind of as a joke, but Nintendo has always pushed gaming forward. They've literally birthed 2 eras of gaming with the Wii's motion sense and the Switch hybrid gaming. Hell, they even saved gaming from being an afterthought in pop culture back in the 80s, so they deserve a lot of credit. Now let's get the elephant out the room. I didn't want to include the GameCube because while I think it's an underrated console, it didn't make any big waves from Nintendo. I played the fuck out of it though. Mario Strikers, the OG kind, not that bullshit they have for the Switch, was one of my favorites, but they also had a good amount of third-party games such as WWE Day of Reckoning and 007 Nightfire, which was the shit. I'll argue with anyone and say that this was the best 007 game. We also got Mario Sunshine, which that game alone deserves its own vid. There's yet to be a platformer that can match the movement and level design of a Mario Sunshine, and Nintendo was in their absolute bag with this game. If you enjoyed the vid, then leave a like for me and even consider subscribing. As always, I hope you all stay safe and stay dangerous. It's been your boy Rob. Yes, just Rob. And I'm out. Peace.